Mami's back, and it spells trouble for Dominic, and Liv is still trying to complete her revenge tour. We saw heel turns, we saw new factions, and we also saw the Wyatt Six. We'll cover that off with the Raw rebound right now on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. So, as I mentioned at the very start of this just now, Rhea Ripley returned to Monday Night Raw this week, and suffice to say, Damian Priest is in the doghouse. She is not very happy with him at all. As Raw started, I mean, she has basically said now that she is not only going to end the Liv Morgan revenge tour, she is going to end the career of Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. Now, I don't know if the match has been confirmed yet, but Rhea has challenged Liv Morgan to a match at SummerSlam for the Women's Championship. Dominic spent the entire night on Raw trying to work things out with Rhea. He bought her some flowers. There was a hell of a lot of Judgment Day stuff going on out the back. You know, nearly every other segment was Judgment Day. So Raw was very Judgment Day heavy, rightly or wrongly, this week. He did spend them, yes, they did try to spend the most of it helping out or getting back into the good books of Rhea Ripley, which didn't really work. Jey Uso even told Mummy to call him. We'll get into that because he had a singles match later on with Dominic, which spelt more trouble actually during that match because Liv Morgan did indeed get involved in that match. They ended up again on top of each other, which obviously Rhea didn't find amusing. But it seems to be Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan at SummerSlam for the Women's Championship. Which way will Dominic sway in this one? There was also a bit with him and Damian Priest where Dominic wasn't happy that Damian Priest didn't tell him about Rhea Ripley coming back, and you know, Priest was like, well, you told me everything was fine between them, which I knew that it wasn't. So there seems to be like it's really weird on Judgment Day at the moment. They've got like a face side, which is now it's seemingly Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley are the face side of the Judgment Day, and everybody else, Finn, JD McDonough, and Dominic are the heels. Does Dominic cost Rhea at SummerSlam? I think he does. I really do. I think he does cost Rhea the match at SummerSlam against Liv Morgan, which is going to be quite interesting. And funny enough, Liv did say a line on Raw, something like she was sorry for her voice. She's been in Mexico, a long weekend in Mexico, and she's a bit of a screamer, which, yeah, didn't really go down. But get the words out. Dominic did indeed offer Ripley some black flowers, which got thrown at him, as did the door. But later on in the night, she did give him the black flower back, or at least one of the black flowers back, and basically saying, Mummy doesn't belong to you, you belong to Mummy. So that's interesting at the end to see that. Um, but nevertheless, I still believe that Dominic is costing Rhea the match at SummerSlam. Sheamus and Bronson Reed actually had the first match of Raw. Good old meat slapper. It was indeed as well. Sheamus picking up the victory um, in this match. But after the match, Bronson Reed was attacking Sheamus, and out come Pete Dunne. Now, last week, Sheamus had saved Pete Dunne from an attack. He went to hug Pete. Pete pushed him away, seemingly not wanting to have anything to do with Sheamus. Tyler Bate, who's Pete Dunne's partner, is unfortunately injured. He's had surgery. So we really do wish him well. However, on this occasion, Pete Dunne come and save Sheamus. He did hit Bronson Reed with the Inzaguri. And again, there was a handshake offered by Sheamus to Dunne. He refused that handshake. And as Sheamus turned his back, Dunne launched himself back in the ring and attacked Sheamus from behind and watched on as Bronson Reed then hit the tsunami on Sheamus. So is this leading to a Pete Dunne Sheamus match at SummerSlam? Pete Dunne hasn't explained his actions. We know that Sheamus left the Brawling Brutes when he was injured as well. So there's an interesting part of that. Where are they going with this? Pete Dunne heel again. I think he works better as a heel. The whole joint manipulation side of his in-ring stuff works better as a heel than it does a face. So that is an interesting one for me. I'm quite interested to see where they go with this. As I say, SummerSlam a couple of weeks away now. Are we going to see a Sheamus Pete Dunne match at SummerSlam? Quite possibly indeed. There wasn't many women's matches on the show today. Sonya Deville did whoop Selena Vega in about 2 minutes. Unfortunately, on that, not a lot really happened on that afterwards. Obviously, Sonya Deville was with Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark. They did try to jump Selena after the match, which got Katanya Chance and Caden Carter, Casey, as I like to call him, helped to help Selena out at the end there. But yeah, there wasn't a lot, and I think this has to do with there was so much Judgment Day involvement in Raw. Perhaps maybe one or two segments too many. When they could have put on some women's matches, they could have had some more matches in general, really, on the show. But they focused it very much on a lot of interview segments as well. We'll get into that right now because Chad Gable was at the back complaining to Adam Pearce. He wants to know if Bo Dallas was punished because they had a meeting last week. Adam Pearce said that it was private and he's keeping it that way, the conversations. And he said, by all means, if Gable wants to have a conversation with Bo Dallas, he's here tonight and he can do so, which led to Chad Gable calling out Bo Dallas, who was blindsided by the Creed brothers. Now, if you remember, over the last few weeks, WWE have been planting these Easter eggs where, he was back, where Chad Gable was initially backstage with the Alpha Academy trying to get help. And then at another point, he was with Diamond Mine, the Creed brothers, and Ivy Nile as well recently. It seems like the Alpha Academy was helping Xavier Woods. So Kofi Kingston's injured. So there's a little bit of a storyline interjection here. So before he calls out Bo Dallas, there was this bit where the Alpha Academy has said to Xavier Woods, you've got a match, a 6-person tag match next week with Karrion Kross and his crew, the Final Testament. We've got your back. And Chad Gable was like, oh, I wish you had my back. And anyway, that led out Chad Gable to ringside to call out Bo Dallas. As Bo's coming out, the Diamond Mine attack him. They attack him, they beat him up on the outside. There's a bit of a beat up on the inside going on as well. And every time he gets flattened, Bo Dallas, he's laughing. And they're like, what are you laughing about? They continue to beat down. Again, he laughs. Then there's a big German from Chad Gable. Bo Dallas is in the corner. He's like, and he's still laughing. He's like, what are you laughing about? And then he does the old Luke Harper's, yeah, 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 yeah. And then he sort of Chad Gable's holding him, was like, why are you laughing? And he was like, and Bo Dallas was then like, there you are. And then he says the yeah, yeah, yeah again. And then the lights go off. Out come the Wyatt Six. Everyone bows out. Chad Gable and the Wyatt said, Chad Gable. Bo Dallas and the Wyatt Six stand tall at the end of that segment. But it's seemingly shaping up to be possibly a 6-man tag at SummerSlam. Maybe we're going to get to see, I don't know, Rowan, because there was a sit-down interview of Eric Rowan, which we'll get to in a minute. There was Rowan, there was Joe Gacy, there's obviously Bo Dallas, and there is one more member. Oh, Dexter Lumis. So there's maybe a couple of those out of the 4 there will go in. Ivy Nile could be brought in, and then that could freeze up Nikki Cross to join as well, make it a bigger person tag match or intergender tag match as well. So there's a lot that could go on with that. I do think I'm starting to need to see more from the Wyatt Six. Now, what we saw this week on the video, so the Pat McAfee show was before Raw, and they done a point of that show where the video was brought to Pat McAfee. They played it on Raw. It was about Eric Rowan and how he lost both of his brothers, but how he was accepted into this new family kind of thing. So it was that was a really heart-wrencher because you could see the pain in Rowan's face, and that wasn't like, acting pain. That was real pain from, everything that happened in his life where he lost a brother in Harper or Brody Lee. And then a month or a year later, he loses Bray Wyatt, his other brother. And you could really tell that was real emotion coming out from Rowan at this point. That was real emotion, real hurt, real pain. And I say it was nice. It wasn't nice to see, but they sometimes, when a promo is based on reality or an interview is based on reality, it hits that a little bit harder. And this one certainly did. So potentially, are we going to see videos of the other Wyatt members as well? Are we going to get one for Gacy? Are we going to get one for Loomis? Are we get one for Nikki? How is it all going to work? I don't know, but I do feel like we need to start seeing more from the Wyatts now, the Wyatt Six now, the stable. This just isn't going to wash every single week. We've had it for 3 or 4 weeks now, and it just needs to start changing up a little bit, in my opinion, to make it much, just to start seeing more. I mean, I suppose with the interview for Rowan, we've got an insight into why Rowan joined the group, maybe. So perhaps those little interviews that they're doing with kind of like Uncle Howdy voiceovers will give us an insight into why they joined the group. But we do need to start seeing more of action with them. We saw that big, massacre that happened when Chad was one of the ones that got hurt at Raw 4 or so weeks ago. But there's been nothing really since then, and even this week, just having them come out, Diamond Mine and Gable bowed out the ring. There really wasn't, for me, enough of the, you know, enough going on with it. I need to see more. And I say, maybe the interviews will turn up next week. We'll see another one with Gacy. We'll get an insight. So the insights are cool, but I do feel like we need to see more action now from the Wyatts. It's my opinion, of course. Then we saw, there was a segment with Damian Priest and Gunther in the ring. They were just hyping up the match at SummerSlam, really. There really wasn't a lot to this. Damian Priest has basically just said that he's just going to make him look like a boring, concealed or conceited, privileged scumbag, after he beats him SummerSlam. It was fine for what it was. I don't necessarily want these two to touch too much. They did in the match that Damien had with Braun Strowman, where Damien beat Braun Strowman, and there was a big chop from Gunther and a clothesline from Damien Priest. But I feel as if there could have been. I feel as if not a lot's been done. There's too much going on elsewhere, I think, with storylines at the moment. We'll get into Drew McIntyre in a minute. And of course, you've got the bloodline stuff. You've got Rhea Ripley, the Wyatts. I feel like Damian Priest's reign is kind of being, I wouldn't say not priority, but he just doesn't feel important right now with all the other storylines you've got going on, all the other channels, even on NXT where you've got the TNA stuff going on. It just feels like Damian Priest's title runs kind of been forgotten about a little bit. And I know Gunther's going to have, that match should be quite big on the card. Potentially Gunther wins that match and wins the championship. But I just feel that match should be taking more importance over some of the other stuff that's happening on Raw. And it actually isn't. And it feels a little bit like less important now than really what it should be, in my opinion. And that's why I haven't really spoken too much about the promo, because it was just a standard promo, really. There wasn't nothing that got you like, oh, geez, And then after the match at the end with Braun and Damien, there really wasn't much going on. There was a chop thing, there was a clothesline from Lariat, and Gunther retreats to the outside. I'm not quite sure, what's going on there. But the women did come back. I did have this written down, actually, because initially there was one women's match. There was two. It was Casey versus Baszler and Deville. Baszler and Stark, and Baszler and Stark pick up the pinfall and that. But there really wasn't a lot of women's sort of stuff going on. And again, I keep saying about going back to the Judgment Day stuff. It really was to do with the fact that every other segment was Judgment Day. And and even Damian Priest there with the Judgment Day, he's part of that with Gunther. And because of what's going on around it, it's just not as important as it was. But what can you do, right? What can you do? We're going to touch on McIntyre last, that bit last, and where they're going with it, because it is quite interesting. I've mentioned that obviously Jey Uso took on Dominic, and Uso got the victory there. Mentioned about the segment between Chad Gable and the Wyatt Six. Sami Zayn in the main event was against Ilya Dragunov for the Intercontinental Championship, which was a fantastic match, actually. Really good main event. But actually, at the end, Braun Breaker, who had earlier on in the night had basically come out to Adam Pearce berating him, saying, why didn't I get my shot? Why not get another shot at the championship? And it was and he come out and raised hell at the end of Raw. He took them both out, big spear as he's doing at the minute. The only thing that I would say with Breaker is I'm getting a little bit tired already of. It was great when they first done the camera angle of above and you see him running the ring and spearing somebody. But I think doing it every single week is going to become tedious really, really quickly. And they need to kind of stop that a little bit and start to, phase that out a bit, make that more special, make that more impactful, because he is such an impact wrestler. Everything he does, you're like, geez, that hurts. Geez, that hurts. Geez, that hurts. But the fact that they keep doing the same stuff every week, it will take down the special feeling of that particular move, for argument's sake. And yeah, I feel as if Breaker's time is now, is coming up now. Maybe he'll get another shot. Maybe they'll do a triple threat at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship, and Braun Breaker may get the victory in that match, because is it too, there's an argument, is it too soon for Braun Breaker? Should they slowly build it? But he did lose clean to Sami Zayn at the Money in the Bank, so you do have to be careful. A bit like the LA Knight situation. I know that LA Knight's obviously got his shot at SummerSlam, and you would think that's when he's going to win, and you would hope so, because he was riding that wave of momentum with the crowd and everyone. They didn't pull the trigger. I'm not saying he should have beat Roman Reigns by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm saying that he should have won a title by now, a title, or the US title, funnily enough, which is the one he could be winning in a couple of weeks at SummerSlam. But same with Breaker here. He's come straight in. He has been massively impactful. The crowd like this, the barking and doing all of that stuff. He's at a prime point. You could argue, has it come too quickly? Should they have just had him do a load of squash matches and bits and pieces like that, just to get him on the screen, give him the time, show off that incredible move set that he's got, show off the impactfulness that he has, before putting him in the situation he's in now, where he's kind of in a way, and this isn't, this is obviously up for debate, but I think he's in a must win now, because there is that point where if he doesn't win at SummerSlam, and Ilya could take the pinfall here, I mean, and then there's that bit as well, actually thinking about it. Same with Ilya Dragunov. They're kind of like both in this must win situation, because Ilya Dragunov is a fantastic wrestler. You see it on here. You see every match he has. He's brilliant. He's come up from NXT. He's done okay, but he's also on this losing thing as well. And if him and Breaker, and I know it sounds stupid, one of them has to lose. If they do it, assuming they do a triple threat at SummerSlam, that is, one of them will have to lose. And again, it's momentum that neither of them can really afford to be dropped right now. And to have, one or maybe even both lose would drastically kill momentum of Ilya and Braun Breaker, sorry. So I think that they need to be very careful with this, and yes, capitalize on it, but perhaps they should have just waited a little while before giving Braun and Ilya this opportunity. Give them time to work their way up on the card a little bit on Raw, but they didn't. So we're going to see what happens with them. Certainly next week on Raw, we'll have a bit more as to whether it's going to be a single or a triple threat at SummerSlam. Moving on to the final piece. Drew McIntyre was suspended. Adam Pearce said, look, last week he said to Punk, stay away from Raw. I'll deal with McIntyre. And, he come out to Drew. All he wanted Drew to do was like apologize. And, Drew, he was saying to Drew, though, that, how badly do you want this Punk match? And he said, I want it more than anything in the world. But he needs Drew to do business. Drew was like, yo, I'm ready to do business. He's like, great, but there's one thing I need to do. He brought the referees in the ring, and he wants them to apologize, basically. And Drew McIntyre did not apologize to referees. He did not apologize to anybody. So in that sense, Drew started throwing people around. He's still suspended. And out comes Seth Rollins. They had a huge brawl. And you're kind of now wondering with this, where are they going with the brawl? Are they going to have a triple threat at SummerSlam? Now, if you believe the rumors on the internet, they're not going to be having a triple threat at SummerSlam. It could be Punk versus McIntyre. So are they going to put Seth as the referee in that match and have Seth Rollins as the special guest referee? What are they going to do here? Because McIntyre wants Punk, right? Without a shadow of a doubt. McIntyre wants Punk. But he's suspended. Seth wants Punk because Punk cost him everything. He cost him the shot, although Priest has already said if he wins the title, he's next in line. If he retains the title at SummerSlam, he's next in line. So he's technically not lost everything. And then if Priest loses, Seth can go back for the title anyway because Gunther will be champion. So Seth hasn't really lost now. So he shouldn't, I'm not saying he shouldn't be upset with Punk, but Seth doesn't like Punk. McIntyre don't like Punk. Punk doesn't like anybody, but they're fighting amongst themselves now. So is this kind of setting up a triple threat? Are they setting up a referee? Is Punk, are they doing this? Because, and this is another thing, potentially, of course, if Punk is not cleared in time for SummerSlam, are they going to do it as it's McIntyre versus Seth with Punk as the referee, assuming Punk is not cleared in time for SummerSlam? Could that be where they're going with it? Is that what they're trying to set up? So they've got like a full plan or like a backup plan. It's Punk and McIntyre, maybe with Rollins as ref if Punk is cleared. If Punk isn't cleared, is it McIntyre and Rollins with Punk as ref? Lots and lots of potentials there, but at least they've kept it open for that. I'm really glad that there is that sort of, there is that backup plan in case. And maybe that's where they're going. Or do they say if Punk is cleared, we'll do the triple threat? Lots of stuff, lots of feelings on that going on. But they could also, last thing on this and before we wrap up, they could also do it where it is McIntyre and Seth with Punk as ref. Punk costs McIntyre again, which sets up the match at Bad Blood. There we go. I'm writing everything for you guys. But that is another potential. But there's a lot going on Monday Night Raw. Just felt too Judgment Day heavy for me. I don't know what you guys feel about it. Let me know. Yeah, and too heavy on Judgment Day. The in-ring action was good actually for what was of it. There could have been more of that. Could have just killed off a couple of Judgment Day segments for another match in. But it was good, and nevertheless, another solid episode of Raw as we move on towards SummerSlam. Guys, just thanks for subscribing. Thanks for following us or HTT Buckle on Twitter, or Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media outlets. And of course, we'll be back. We've got Steve Macklin's interview dropping tomorrow. We interviewed the Blue Meanie. That's coming out next week. We'll have some more review shows lining up the rest of this week. So keep it locked on the channel. And you have been watching the Raw review on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.